So, babe just left. She just went back home. But we had a very interesting conversation, as we always do. And today's conversation was about labels. And she and I have been having this conversation probably for about the past 4 years that we've been in a relationship together. There has been times in my life, and she knows this, that we were in respect to talking about labels. I, however, do not really care for labels, and I never have. And I know right now in today's LGBTQARSTUVWXYZ, I don't know all the acronyms, so I'm just going to say them all just to kind of make sure that it is what it is, and I'm not poking fun at the LGBT community because I am LGBTQA, whatever it all it is. But at the same time, I'm not comfortable with labels, and I'm not comfortable with labels because I'm not comfortable being put into a box. And I feel like most often labels do just that. It puts you in a box and it makes you have to be a certain way all the time. And as I was telling babe, I said, the days are not the same. The sun doesn't shine the same way every day. Sometimes it's cloudy, sometimes it's rainy, sometimes the sun is out, sometimes it's not. So how can you expect to be one way every day, all the time? Because circumstances is changing, the universe around you is changing, just so much is happening. It's not to say that those people who are able to be one way all the time, that's fine for them. It does not work for me. I am what I would consider, and I told her, I said, most of my life that I've been in this particular lifestyle has been, people have defined me as either at some points in time masculine, some people masculine identified, some people powder puff stud, I don't know, whatever, all these different things. But I've never liked to be called anything other than by my name. And I can appreciate that when people, I understand people feel like they have a need to define someone. And I told her, I said, I don't believe that any of those definitions are important. It's almost, unless we are sleeping together, then you asking me what side of the bed that you like to sleep on is important. Other than that, anybody else asking me how I define myself, it shouldn't really be it shouldn't even really come into play. We should be able to have conversations, in-depth conversations with one another, to where that doesn't come up. If you like somebody, you like somebody. If you care about somebody, you care about somebody, and certain things shouldn't really matter. If you're attracted to somebody, it must be something within them that you are attracted to them about. The way that they look, the way that they carry themselves, or whatever the case may be. It has to be something that's already attracted within you. So them sleeping on the left side of the bed or the right side of the bed really should not matter. I think for me, we were talking about people wanting to define, because babe says that people feel like they have to have a definition or what, to call somebody. And I said, I don't think you call anybody other than what their name is. Some people want to be defined as they, shim, he, her, or don't like any particular labels at all. And I said, if somebody were, trying to define who Kai is, all they need to say is the one over there with those blue sweatpants on and that red top. That's Kai. We tend to genderize everything, and sometimes to me is not necessary, because that too places you in within a box as well. And then that's where we go into the whole society thing of only men can do this and only women can do that, and when it's so not true. Whoever can do the job should do the job. So I think the boxing of gender roles, the boxing of people into gender roles, is a really tricky situation, and it's something that it just really, to me, should not happen. We talked about, she said, well, how is it that you began to feel comfortable within yourself? And I told her, I said, I said, when I first came out, um, I was taught, the ins and outs of, the lifestyle. And basically the lifestyle pretty much sometimes mirror um, the lifestyle of a heterosexual couple. So there's got to be a stud, there's got to be a femme. So when we see two femmes together or we see two studs together, there's an issue. Why should there be an issue? Those are two people who love each other regardless of, what they look like, standing up, so at any rate, I'm not one to judge those particular types of things. Now, would I like someone who is, more masculine? No, I never have. I don't, think that that's, for me. But at the same time, if someone else too, if that's what they prefer, I'm not going to be judgmental against them because that's what they like. Who says that everybody, we're starting to put people, just like you have these cookie cutter homes, Stepford wives and, Stepford gay people, like we're putting people inside of these boxes and we say that they should have to live within that box and they really should not. What is it that you like? What is it that you don't like? Be that, be yourself. We have these tendencies to not allow people to be themselves and they have to define themselves either one way or another. Somebody asked me, well, would you consider yourself non-binary? No, I don't consider myself anything. I don't consider myself any label per se. I'm just Kai. If you're asking me, do I prefer one thing over another? Yes, I may prefer one thing over another. No, I don't, do, men, per se. I don't do that. But that doesn't mean that, I have in the past. So, does that now make me, what does that make me? Do I have to be anything? And why do I have to be anything? Why can't I just be who it is that I am? And so as we have these different discussions and we understand that people are just people, we love who we love, and, you should be able to love who you love too. We put women who are not as feminine as other women, have an issue with those women because they either rock gym shoes, but, or they act masculine, or they're just tomboyish and we want them to be like us. Why do you have to be the status quo? Why do I gotta look like you? Why can't I just look like me and be me? Isn't there enough of you? Like I don't have to look like you. You should be appreciative that you are who you are, and I'm not trying to tell you that you need to, rock, some gym shoes and, this whole fit that I'm rocking, so why do we have to tell people which box to stand in? What box that we're going to close up on them, because that means that now you're in this box. And again, basically when I was talking to Babe, I said I didn't like being in a box because it meant I had to be this way all the time. I'm not this way all the time. I might be more masculine today and tomorrow I'm not going to be feminine, but I might be less masculine. You know what I'm saying? I might just be in this space where I'm in the middle of the road, and that's where I enjoy being. I don't the one thing that I've learned, and it was very hard because, again, a lot of the things that, you're taught within society is that you have to be. So just like society, heterosexual normal is what they would call normal heterosexual people will say there has to be a woman, there has to be a man. So that means there has to be feminine and there has to be masculine. And so that is so limiting, because within the feminine role there's different levels of femininity, and in the masculine role there's different levels of masculinity. So when we're trying to tell people that they have to fit on one end of the spectrum, you end up creating hyper masculinity or hyper femininity. And so which means is that, you see these men who go and just to prove that they're hard, they end up raping people or talking to women like they shit, or just, just trying to define for themselves that that's what a masculine man is when that really is not, or that they got to stand some way. And, it's crazy. You have the same thing within certain LGBT situations as well, where I feel like, or they feel like they have to, walk a certain way, talk a certain way, in certain, I didn't come into this lifestyle until I was like almost 30 years old. And so there was some training or some grooming that happened, so to speak, from the people who, I came into this lifestyle, at that particular time. But just like there's the same thing in society where we groom our little boys and our little girls, and we tell our little boys that you can't cry when something happens to you, or if you cry, that's a feminine thing. What the hell? Everybody need to wash away some emotions. Everybody needs to, cry sometimes, and to tell a man that he cannot cry, that's the worst thing that you do. And then you end up where he's built up all these things to, where he does not allow himself to have any type of emotion, and then he's whipping on somebody's ass because he don't know where to put these emotions, and things of that nature. You tell little boys, well, you acting like a little girl. Don't tell them that. Like, what the hell? We are people. We are spirits that have been placed inside these bodies. These bodies could have been anything, literally they could have been anything. There's the spirit that's within a body that is kind of navigating the body. And so when we have these people, other spirits or entities in these bodies that are trying to tell us, well, your body, you only have to be this way, you can only be this way within this body, it's so limiting and confounding when the spirit itself is neither female nor male. Anything else that we do is something that's a learned behavior, because we didn't come into this particular, existence, being one way or the other. We were able to walk, within balance. We came into the world in balance. So as people would have it, to tell us that we have to be one way or the other is very limiting. It's really limiting to the scope and the magnificence of who we are as people. And I'm not trying to say that I've always been able to create a space of balance for myself, because I had not. After, conditioning or training into, kind of allowing myself to be way hyper masculine, and then realizing that I could not maintain that space because, I'm not that way all the time. You know what I'm saying? Yes, there's parts of me that some days I get up in the morning and I'm more masculine than anything. Sometimes I wake up in a state where I want to be really nurturing and really loving and really caring, and that quality has a more feminine energy to it. To say that, and sometimes I hate to say it in that way, because then that means that men who care about other women, and we're talking about energy, and we're not talking about gender, we're talking about energy. Even men have feminine energy, and that way they're allowed to be nurturing to their sons or to their daughters or to the people that they love, and be able to, have care for them. We've been put in such deep boxes that if another man kisses another man, and it doesn't, in our culture, they're gay, or no, that don't mean that a person's gay. That just means that either that person really cares about that person and they're really okay within their gender to know that that person know that I'm not coming on to them. I'm kissing them because this is my brother, you know what I'm saying? Or this is my cousin and I love him just that much. It's gotten to the point where we can't even be able to show, emotions. We got to be hard and bump fists or dap, or that's all. We can't really hug and love on one another. We're in a space and a time where we need more love and we need more caring of other people. But when we begin to continuously put each other in boxes and and saying that we can't do these particular types of things because that's gay activity, when that's a loving thing. You go back, and most of those people who are shunning the whole gay thing of it, and not trying to say that Jesus was gay, but some of them disciples was laying in his lap and some more stuff. And y'all will have a fit if y'all saw any man laying in another man's lap. You would really have it. But you got spirituality, you got Bible verses all day long, but yet and still you overlook those things because it's about love, and you have this preconceived notion of what you believe love is. And love is all things. It's a plethora of things. It doesn't mean that, hey, I want to sleep with you because I love you. It means that I love you and I care about what happens to you on a general level. And so come here, let me kiss on you, let me hug on you, let me, let you know that you are okay in this world, and let me do that to my sons. Ain't nobody talking about kissing on the lips, because I don't kiss everybody on the lips, and I don't think we should kiss everybody on the lips, because we don't know what they do with their lips, you know what I'm saying? So it's not that, it's just a simple display of love and care for another human being, but we make so much out of it. If a guy wears a what we would consider to be a dress, you got an issue with it. Why do you have an issue with, first and foremost, with what somebody else put on their body? You're not buying their clothes. You don't take care of them. So why should you care about what somebody else puts on their body? Why does that concern you? Why do you give that so much energy, but you can't focus on the things in your own particular life that need to be worked on within yourself? Why are you putting so much energy into what somebody else has on? It's kind of just defeats the purpose of your own life, for one. And then number two, if you go back through history, there were times that men wore dresses. They weren't considered to be called dresses at the time. They were something else. Whatever they were was during that particular time. And so now you see people, just as if years ago, people had a problem if a man wore pink. It's a color. It's a color. It doesn't define anything. It's a color. So now men are wearing pink. They have the pink shoes with the shirt or whatever. And finally, you guys have been able to accept that. But some people had to really be okay with themselves to do those things in front of other men, to say that, hey, I ain't gay or anything, but I could rock this pink because I don't care. It's pink and it look good on me, until, society begins to, not care about. That's so silly. Colors and what people have on and what they do in their bedrooms and what they do with their lives, like, it's none of our business. Again, unless I am asking you, because we're getting ready to sleep together, what side of the bed do you prefer to be on? That's the only time I need to know something about your sleeping habits. Other than that, it's really none of my business. I don't care, as long as you're not being hurt, and somebody, none of this is a good hurt, because some of us like pain, it's starting to happen. But if you're not being hurt, and if the person who you're with is not, being hurt as well, and they ain't somebody's child, then I don't have an issue with it. Whatever you do in your spare time is what you do in your spare time. It does not concern me. I have too many issues in my own life. I have too many issues in my own life to discover, to work on, and to, change about myself, and to be better about myself, than to me worry and try and put you in a box when I got some issues. How do I even look trying to put you in a box when I'm trying to crawl up out of one? And we've all put ourselves in these boxes that we've got to look a certain way, we got to be a certain way, and we've got to always be masculine, or we are, got to always be feminine. I think to honor my spirit, because again, my spirit is neither masculine nor feminine. It's both. There's that yin, that yang type of thing. There's equal yin, and equal yang. So that means that I am made of both components at the same equal amount. So why should I be over here? Because this is way uncomfortable for me to be way over here all the time. This is way even more, uncomfortable to be over here all the time. But when I'm able to just walk and flow in the middle, I'm good. Like, I'm good. Now, don't get me wrong. It takes every day, allowing myself to walk into that middle space, because sometimes certain days I may be more over here, or I may be more over here. And for me to get into the center of things, that's a thing that I have to do within myself, to allow myself to be more in the middle and not try and sway one way or the other. Because what happens if you have too much masculinity and not enough femininity or feminine energy, when you have too much masculine energy and not enough feminine energy, there begins to be a heaviness that comes about you. And to balance those things out, you have to allow yourself that feminine energy as well as that masculine energy at the same level. You know, if you got too much of this going on and not enough masculine energy, that's where sometimes we end up in spaces where people take advantage of us, where people, because we're trying to be too nurturing, or we're trying to be, too, not to say that there's a space where you could be too loving or too nurturing, but in some cases you can be. And then, without that feminine energy, when people are able to, that masculine energy, when people have, come in and try and, to do something to you that is not of a right spirit or right energy, and you're still trying to speak to them with this case, sometimes you need that masculine energy to come in and not just only to balance you out, but to let them know too, hey, now, I love you, but I'm not going to let you do me no any kind of way either. You know what I'm saying? So we need all of that. We need to be able to balance our energies out and to walk on both levels at all times. And whatever that balance is for you, it's for you. I can't tell you what that balance look like, but this body that I'm in this energy field that I'm in, this is what it looks like for me. This is what it looks like. It's funny. I've had people say man but woman but man. And it's funny, but it's just who I am. It's who I am. Sometimes you'll catch me where I am. I do have that more masculine energy going on, and sometimes I have less of it. It just depends on what the day is like and what's going on in my energy field. And I used to always try and be over here, and that's difficult to always try and be over here. I'm not always over here. I'm not always way over here. That's like saying every day is fun filled and laughter. Every day is not fun filled and laughter. Some days is just, chaotic and stressful, and some things that are going on. Even though you may be in a space of having peace about what's going on, the day itself is different. So, you have to kind of adjust with it. But anyway, this was a conversation that I believe that sometimes we need to have, because people, I think it's the craziest thing too of trying to identify somebody. It's not necessary. Some of us are hyper vigilant in the aspect we want, hey, everybody to call me, man or male or papa or whatever the case may be. And people will call you what it is that they see you as. And sometimes people will call you those things that they want you to be. So hence, I may, not feel comfortable all the time being called queen. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I don't feel comfortable when people just mistakenly call me, king. If you know my name is Kai. You could just call me that. You don't have to call me anything other than that. You could just call me Kai, and I'm okay with it. Some days it's like, it's whatever. Who cares? But not everybody feels that way. Some people have issues when people, call them something that they're working so hard within themselves to allow themselves to be. And if you see something different, it may be an issue for them. But I implore everyone to not have to be so demanding about, what to call you. It's not that it's not important, because I would never say that what you want to be called is not important. Whatever it is that you want to be called is important. But the mere fact that we're able to acknowledge one another and be in the space where, hey, my name is Kai, what's your name? And I don't want to always have to ask everybody, how do you identify? Because, however it is that you identify is not always important, but I will my best use your name. So I'm not going to call you he, she, they, it. I will continuously call you by your name, only because that's your name, right? So I don't know, for me it's just important not to really be all hooked on labels and he, she, her, them, that, whatever the case may be, because again, that's putting us within boxes, and my name is so varied. It can be used in all kinds of ways and scenarios, and essences, and to express itself. It can be used in so many different ways. But and we talked about today, baby. Now we talked about the awareness of that, and people being able to understand that you don't have to agree with who it is that a person is. You don't have to agree with it, but be respectful enough of what it is that they choose to be in this particular life and how they choose to express themselves. Whether you see them as a woman, but they, prefer to be, in a to walk in a different energy. It's not up to you to say, well, you look like a woman, or you look like this, or you look like that. Don't disrespect the person at all. I gave babe the analogy. I said, it was brought up to me about, one female calling this trans person who's, I guess, transitioning from female to male, that, the straight woman had said to them, and I'm only using terms so you can get the gist of what happened, said to the person who was trans that, well, you look like a girl, so I'm going to call you a girl. Well, that's disrespectful. What if you were kind of a loose person, someone who, had sex with a bunch of different people, but you always want to be called a lady? Well, what if a person or a guy who sees you calls you a hoe? You know what I'm saying? Like, don't get me wrong. They call you out your name. You would prefer not to be called that. You would want them to, see you still as a lady, as someone who is supposedly more refined or whatever, anything but that. So we have to, what I'm really getting to is the point of, is to be respectful enough of if a person does want to be called a certain thing, no matter how it is that you see them or that you want them to be, that you're respectful enough of them and their own energy to call them whatever it is that they so choose to be called, and not try and say it as what you see it. Respect people enough to whatever it is that they choose for their own lives, that you have no choice but to allow them to be that. That is their life. We're not paying any cost to be them, and if you have an issue with being around that person, then don't. Then don't be around them. If you got an issue, if you're ashamed of them, or you have some type of issue going on with them, stay away from them. Really stay away from them until you can get that in check and be able to respect them just as much as you want to be respected for whoever it is that you are. And if you're smart enough, and if you realize certain things, the way that you put out certain things to other people, it comes back to you. So be aware that whatever it is you put out to that particular person, the next week, the next day, the next minute, somebody could be calling you out your own name, or trying to tell you certain things about yourself that you don't want, or that you don't agree with, and that you just want to be yourself. So then you recognize that for what it is and say, you know what, earlier today, or last week, or last month, or last year, I had that guy that was standing in front of me that wanted to be called a guy, but I kept calling him a girl and saying he looked like that. This is what that is, because the universe has a way to show you or to reflect back to you yourself. So as you stand in one space, you better believe that the pendulum swings back, and you get to be on the other end of what it is that you're even, trying to say that someone else is, or whatever the situation is. The pendulum swings. So either at some point and I'm not calling that person a victim, or that you're the bully or the whatever it is, whatever it is that you are on this end, trust and believe that the universe swings back, and you have to play the role of the other side of it. So anyway, I don't know, I've been rambling on for a little bit, and I probably will talk about this in another video, but it was just such a great conversation, that I kind of want to share a little bit of that conversation with you guys. But allow people to be who they are. Like, not that you have any control over that, but sometimes you do. I had a person to tell me that they wanted to cut their hair. They're like older than I am. They wanted to cut their hair. But if they cut their hair, like their other brother or sister or whoever was going to have an issue with it. You're a grown person. And if you want to cut your hair, cut your hair. If you want to be who you are, be who you are. And it's sad that people cannot be who they are for other people bullying them to be who they want them to be. That's not fair. It's so not fair. You get to be whoever you are. You get to walk in your skin proudly and boldly and confidently, but yet you're going to make somebody else, walk in their skin like, well, everybody want me to be like this, so I'm going to be like that. Man, please. We all going to die someday, and I don't want to be on my deathbed talking about, I wish I had the wherewithal or the confidence to just be myself. I'm going to just be myself. I'm going to love people, and I'm going to talk to people, and I'm going to be this person who I believe is in the middle of the road and enjoy my life in that way, shape, or form. I'm going to always be trying to seek a higher level of thinking. I'm going to always be this person that you see, but on a higher level, hopefully, that I keep graduating, in the personage of who it is that I am. And I realize too that as we begin to grow in the people that we are, we can look back on some things and say, well, I didn't say that right, or I could have done that differently, or whatever. But at the same time, it's called growth. Keep growing. Peace.